Chapter 10. After Zhang Jiarui went back, he searched for all sorts of excuses to punish the Zhu family. First, he claimed that the Zhu family servant was bullying the villagers and was lawless, but when he arrested them and brought them to the government for official trial, he found out that the wicked servant was Zhu Laoxi's henchman, who had already been ousted by Zhu Ziyu. The servant's actions were absolutely not the Zhu family's responsibility. Later, someone reported that the nobility had tampered with the standard weight, and who, when collecting rent, he was suspected of embezzling taxes from the court. Zhang Jiarui sent his men to investigate. The result was that the great noble Li and Wang family really were tampering with the rent. Only the Zhu family were honest and respectable. After repeatedly investigating several cases, anything related to the Zhu family and anything unrelated to the Zhu family, not only was the Zhu family's house of benevolence plague not taken down, he actually made Zhu Ziyu's clean reputation spread further. Zhang Jiarui was so angry that he was sleepless for several nights. He grew deeply resentful of Zhu Ziyu, vowing to destroy the Zhu family. After a month of this, Qinzi eventually returned to the capital severely wounded. If the imperial physician hadn't administered anesthesia to him to help clean a wound on his abdomen that was already festering, he probably would have rushed straight to Xingmen County. This box must be personally delivered to Ziyu today. He carefully instructed Yusheng before falling into a coma. Yusheng didn't dare slack off. He personally carried the box and rode a horse to the Zhu residence. "Generally, quickly come in," they asked. "Why have you come in such a hurry?" Yusheng was very pleasantly surprised to see his visitor. "Please accept this box, Zhu Gongji." Yunsheng placed the box on the table. A strong smell of blood spread in the air. Zhou Yunsheng felt his heart shift, and he immediately untied the knot and opened the lid. Shockingly, there was a human head inside. Tweety and Lu Xi repeatedly screamed in fright, but Zhou Yunsheng pressed his palm together and laughed. The person had a Da Peng tattoo on his neck. It was the legendary leader of the Luo Shui mountain bandits, Wang Zhanpeng. He was also the murderer of Zhu Ziyu's father. Finally, the 200,000 chatties of food were not given in vain. Zhou Yunsheng let out a relieved breath and smiled slightly at Yusheng. "General Yu, this kindness, I will always remember it." After only a brief mention that day, this man had actually taken the matter to heart. After settling the imperial court, he immediately rushed to Luo Shui to get revenge for him. He even took the trouble to personally come deliver the head. For no rhyme or reason, how could he be so thorough? Could he really be the man he was looking for? Heart overflowing with heat, Zhou Yunsheng suddenly pressed the sturdy man into the chair, taking advantage of the short moment while he was stunned to slip his tongue into the other man's mouth, stirring and sucking. Yusheng was stupefied, wanting to push back but feeling powerless. Zhu Gongxi's kissing skill was too superb. It seemed to suck out his soul. Zhu Yunsheng's soul didn't feel the slightest bit of familiar throbbing. Yu Cheng wasn't the man he was looking for. How could this be? Zhu Yunsheng narrowed his eyes, slowly stopping his tongue exploring. He took a few steps back and cupped his hand. "General Yu, I've offended you. If you please." He thrust his hand out, indicating the other man should leave. Yusheng was dazed by the kiss. He actually forgot to blame and resist. When his thinking ability returned, he was already on horseback a few li away from Qingmen County. He absent-mindedly returned to the Shenwei Marquisate with a flushed red face, licking his lips, and sat dazed by his superior's bedside. An hour later, the anesthesia drug's effect gradually disappeared, and Shinsei opened his dark eyes. "Did you deliver that thing?" he impatiently questioned. "I delivered it." Yu Sheng's cheeks were now the color of pig liver. He stammered, "Lord Marquis, if a man is interested in you, what should you do?" "Which man is interested in you?" Shinsei scoffed. "Zhu Gongji, he kissed me." Yu Sheng covered his face and muffled out, didn't even find it disgusting. I even wanted it to continue. Lord Marquis, am I doomed? If only Zhu Gongji was a gear, I'd immediately marry him. I wouldn't have to be so confused right now." Qin Se almost catapulted from the bed, his cold gaze turning into a sharp blade, cutting into Yu Cheng's exposed skin. Yu Cheng was so frightened by his gaze that he stammered, "Lord Marquis, what's wrong with you? Why are you glaring at me like this? Why would he want to kiss you? Didn't you tell him that I asked you to send the box?" Damn this guy. He robbed his credit again. Last time for guarding the Zhu mansion, now for destroying the bandits. I didn't have the time to say it before Zhu Gongji kissed me. At this, Yu Sheng suddenly came to a realization, but then he saw the Lord Marquis kicking the door open and heading out in only a robe. In a blink of an eye, he couldn't even find his silhouette. Zhu Yunsheng was still distressed about his lover's whereabouts when a gatekeeper informed him of Marquis Shenwei's visit. Marquis Shenwei? Little Black? What's he doing here? While he was wondering, the travel-worn-looking man had already arrived at the hall, a thin black-colored robe casually draped over his shoulder, and his white inner garment stained with blood. His handsome face was filled with ferocious wrath. "You should know that the reason why the Zhu mansion was saved last time was because I gave the order, and I personally plucked the head of the Lu Shui bandit for you." He strode up to Zhou Yunsheng and stretched out his arms to trap him in between. His eyes were burning hot. So, the intense smell of tobacco hit his face, making Zhu Yunsheng feel somewhat dizzy. "So, the one you should thank and fall in love with is me, not Yu Sheng. The one you should kiss is also me, not Yu Sheng. If I ever find out that you've kissed someone else, I'll pull out that person's tongue." Shinsei leaned over and blocked the young man's slightly parted lips as he spoke. As the touch of their tongues and the blending of their fluids, a familiar trembling sensation spread from their bodies to their souls. A myriad of bright fireworks blossomed in their minds. It felt as if they'd obtained all the feelings of joy and satisfaction the world had to offer. The two clung to each other, constantly changing angles to deepen the kiss. A quarter of an hour passed before they reluctantly parted, connected by a silver thread. "It really is you," Zhu Yunsheng sighed contently. Then his face darkened questioning. "Aren't you already engaged to Zhang Xulin?" "When was I ever betrothed to him?" Qin Se wiped the powder off his lover's forehead and repeatedly kissed the bright red dot. "The rumor has been spreading for a long time. They said that Zhang Xulin is the Lord Marquis' future wife. Isn't the reason you're holding the Zhang family so high to pave the way to marry Zhang Xulin? Are you still coming to mess with me? Fuck off!" Zhu Sheng kicked at the other man. Qin Se leaned forward with a shameless expression, explaining, "I've already cleared that up with the Zhang family, and the reason I made such a big show of giving gifts is to show that I, Marquis Shen Wei, know how to repay kindness. Kindness is kindness, love is love. I'm not going to lose out on a lifetime of happiness for kindness. Jiyu, you're the only one in my heart, and even if you were a man, I would still feel the same about you and have no regrets. If you don't believe me, you can dig out my heart and take a look." He grabbed his lover's hand and intentionally or unintentionally covered his gauze-wrapped wound. When Zhou Yunsheng saw the blood, he immediately forgot his anger and quickly made Tweety get the medicine box. Thus, Chinse naturally stayed overnight. After wrapping around each other for half a month, Chinse finally left to prepare for the wedding. That's right, Zhou Yunsheng had promised to marry into the aristocracy and became a marquisate's official wife. What pretense could there be between husbands who have been together for several lifetimes? Every moment together should be cherished. Otherwise, in the next reincarnation, there is no telling where that man would wander off to, or with whom he would have unclear relations. But Shang Jiarui had also not stayed idle in this past half-month. He ordered men to inquire about the secrets of the Zhu family in every direction, intending to settle Zhu Yu. Hard work always pays off. He really did dig up an astonishing secret. A maidservant that had been kicked out of the Zhu family unexpectedly claimed that Zhu Yu was a Gare. He had a small cinder between his eyebrows, which was usually covered up by powder. Recalling Zhu Yu's unusually beautiful face, Zhang Jiarui was almost completely convicted. He ordered someone to throw a bucket of water in Zhu Yu's face while he was strolling through the wet market. He even sent an old woman to rush out and wipe his forehead clean, revealing the cinder. The onlookers immediately started spreading the gossip. Thanks to the preaching of some dedicated people, it took less than a day for the story to become well known. Zhang Jiarui timely stepped in to propose a marriage for Zhu Yu. The marriage candidate was the same infamous gambler that had not only bankrupted the Zhu family in the original drama, he had even tortured Zhu Yu to the point where death was preferable to living. When the matchmaker led the gambler to the door, Zhu Yunsheng welcomed them in with a big smile. As soon as he sat down, no one had even started speaking yet, when a gatekeeper reported, "The Marquis of Shenwei has arrived." How could the Lord Marquis be here? What is the relationship between the Lord Marquis and the Zhu family? The matchmaker had only heard about the good relationship between the Zhang family and the Marquisate. But they didn't hear that there was also a friendship between the Zhu family and the Marquisate. Otherwise, how would official Zhang try to punish Zhu Yu like this? You'll find out when he comes in. Liu Sheng cupped his teacup and slowly skimmed the floating tea froth. He didn't mention personally going out to welcome in the guest. Since Zhang Jiarui was so eager to court death, he had no plans to stop him. If not, how could an old woman get so close to his body? Jinse ordered the 120 sets of dowries to be taken into the warehouse, then strode into the main hall. When he saw the man sitting upright in the horse seat, he immediately walked over to kiss the crown of his head. His always cold eyes were filled with deep love and warmth. The matchmaker and gambler stared blankly at this. Finally, they felt chilled to the bone, like they had fallen into an ice hole. It turns out the real hidden gem was not the Zhang family, but the Zhu family. It seems that this Zhu Yu was the true wife of the Marquisate. Who are they? Chinse raised his eyebrows and looked towards the two people. One is a matchmaker, the other is the husband official Zhang handpicked for me. You didn't know? A few weeks ago, the Zhang family wanted to buy the mountain to the west, but I didn't agree. So now they want to grab my marriage, trying to cleanly pull out my Zhu family by the roots. I also don't know who first started constantly accusing me of being the village tyrant, saying that there's no such thing as a rich benevolent man. But now, looking back, cutting himself off, Jun Cheng laughed disdainfully. Hearing this, Chin Se became furious. He brought Zhou Yunsheng's hand to his lips and kissed it, snorting coldly. What official Zhang? If I'm happy, he can be official Zhang. If I'm not happy, he's less than nothing. After saying this, he pointed to the already paralyzed with fear matchmaker and said, "Pass this message to Zhang Jiarui and say that I, Qinse, can help push him up to the clouds, but can also beat him down into the abyss and make him behave himself." The matchmaker repeatedly nodded and was about to leave with the arm support of the gambler when Zhou Yunsheng coldly said, "This insignificant thing dared to propose marriage to my Zhu family. How imprudent! Someone come disable his hands." It was these hands that had repeatedly pushed Zhu Xiyu into circumstances worse than death, so why keep them? The gambler screamed in terror until he lost his voice, but Jinsei burst into unprecedented laughter. He waved his hand at the guards while kissing his lover's delicate cheek. The two guards neatly held down the gambler and severed the tendons in his hand. The two who had arrogantly walked in left in a sorry state. All the villagers witnessed this. The matchmaker didn't dare delay. They immediately ran to the county magistrate's office and described the events from beginning to end. Zhang Jiarui was stunned. He immediately returned home to let Zhang Shulin think of a way out. After all, Zhang Shulin was the Lord Marquis's savior. It was very unlikely that he would kick a benefactor in the teeth. Zhang Shulin's heart was bitter, but for the sake of his younger brother's future, he had no choice but to run to the Zhu family to find Marquis Shen Wei. The gatekeeper refused to let him in, so he could only wait around the corner. It wasn't until early the next morning that he saw an exceptionally handsome man walk out with a satisfied expression. "Little Black, wait!" He quickly ran over. "Who are you calling?" Shinsei asked in a heavy voice. "Lord Marquis, please wait a moment. I have something to say." Zhang Shulin immediately changed his address. "But I have nothing to say to you. All what I owe to the Zhang family, this Marquis has already paid it back in full. This Marquis gave you guys money, land, and even honor. As long as you were content, you definitely would have lived a smooth and carefree life. Unfortunately, you were so greedy that you set your sights on my wife. After my wife refused to sell his land, you actually tried to rob him. And when you failed to rob him, you schemed against his marriage. You wanted to push him into a pit of fire. At the start, you flaunted yourself as a saint, but you acted like this after you gained power. No need to make this Marquis feel nauseous. Go back and tell Zhang Jiarui that this Marquis will never forget this. Anyone who dares to rob his wife would be killed without mercy." Zhang Shulin was rendered speechless by this rebuke and could only look on helplessly as the other men quickly left. Zhang Jiarui was waiting at the village entrance. His expression was warped one moment, and he clutched at his hair the next. His intestines green with regret. When he saw his older brother's dejected expression, he immediately resembled a deflating ball, limp all over. He should have anticipated it. With Zhu Xiyu's extraordinarily beautiful face and carefree and proud temperament, how could Shinsei resist? "Big brother, what should we do?" he cried out like a child. How could he still have the least bit of county magistrate prestige? Zhang Shulin was also shocked. He could only comfort himself that Little Black wouldn't be so cold-blooded. But in fact, Shinsei was a very cold-blooded man. All his gentleness was devoted to Zhou Yunsheng. You could touch him, but if you touched his lover, you would have to suffer his crazy revenge. Zhang Jiarui, the county magistrate, was soon involved in a corrupt case before his position was even stabilized. He was not only imprisoned, his scholarly honor was dismissed, and he was forever blacklisted from official posts. Zhang Shulin sold off the family property to mediate relationships and finally redeemed him out of prison. But the Zhang family lost its wealth and its reputation was thoroughly ruined. Everywhere they went, they were cursed at. People claimed that Zhang Jiarui was a heartless official who entrapped honest people and oppressed the citizens. He deserved to end up like this. They also said that good men really had good rewards. Zhu Gongji was able to marry the Lord Marquis. The heavens were truly watching. The Zhang family could not hold their heads up at all in Qingmen County, so they had no choice but to move to a faraway region to start over. But they had no foundation, no connection, and no money. How could life be so easy? Whenever Zhang Shulin thought up a good money-making idea, it was swiftly rubbed away as soon as he got started, and things were often made deliberately hard for him. This finally made him realize how lucky he was to have met a kind landlord like Zhu Ziyu. Zhang Jiarui's ambition was very high, but his character was sorely lacking. After his official career road was cut off, he felt hopeless and quickly spiraled into a deep depression. He even picked up drinking, gambling, and other bad habits, completely becoming a local ruffian. The locals always shake their heads when I talk about him.